We're now 25 years into the lifespan of Resident Evil, and you don't get that deep into a franchise without a few Easter eggs, references, tips of the hat, and plant-based jokes. The games, movies, and books are loaded with them, but there's a few in particular which we can't help but feel were deliberately included as a way of acknowledging the occasional goofiness of our beloved survival horror action series. I'm KDB for First Aid Spray, and this is 5 times Resident Evil winked at the fans. Claire Sandwich. Without a doubt one of the most famous lines in the series, which in turn allowed Barry Burton to take his crown as the king of dad jokes, is of course from Resident Evil 1's scene with Jill and Barry, where Barry saves Jill from certain death, and exclaims,
"That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich."
This absolute magnum bullet of a bad joke has been lampooned by fans on social media over the years, but did you know that in 2015's Revelations 2, the line is effectively repeated by Claire Redfield in what is no doubt a huge wink from the writers to this infamous and incredibly silly piece of dialogue.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yeah, I was almost a Claire sandwich.
May the comedy stylings of Barry Burton live on, even if he doesn't get one last outing in the franchise. Not so well hidden labs. 2021 saw the release of a brand new fully CG animated series set in the Resident Evil universe, starring the heroes of Resident Evil 2, Leon and Claire. Reception to the series was lukewarm to, well, as cold as temperatures in a vaccine synthesis lab underneath a city.
Who left the freezer open?
But whatever your reaction to the show, it had its fair share of references to other points in the franchise. A recurring theme in the Resident Evil games seems to be that Umbrella, or some evildoer, is able to hide some gigantic laboratory loaded with bioweapons underneath the feet of the unsuspecting public, whether that be in the Arklay Mansion, Central Raccoon City, or the town's general hospital. Those scientists sure seem dead set on hiding in plain sight. It's a logistical choice which is often questioned and made fun of, and Infinite Darkness's writers join in on the fun when Leon and Shen Mei arrive at yet another underground facility, seemingly directly underneath the White House, and Leon, with all his wit and charm, says,
Right under everyone's noses. Typical.
perhaps it's time for the next big bad to hide their lab in a mountain or on the moon, anywhere that it can't be stumbled upon or just casually fallen into by our unsuspecting heroes. I mean, I'm not doing an impression of the merchant, this would just be ridiculous, isn't it? Okay, fine, okay. What are you buying? 2021 also brought us what is looking to possibly become the best-selling game in the franchise's history, Resident Evil Village. Released to critic and fan praise alike, Ethan Winter's return was a game sprinkled with subtle links to previous entries, but there's a couple of times in particular where the writers gleefully and unashamedly wink at the fans. One of the fan favourites from the game was of course the humble merchant, the Duke. Acting as a guide and supply chain for Ethan, this rotund and suave salesman does always seem to have your best interests at heart. Village obviously takes a lot of influence from Resident Evil 4 in terms of tone and style, but it doesn't stop there. The Duke at one point directly references the ridiculously silly but fun merchant counterpart from RE4 by imitating one of his classic lines.
What are you buying?
What are you buying? Just something an old friend of mine used to say.
Hearing the Cockney accent come from the Duke is a laugh out loud moment, and although it does take you out of the immersion of the game for a second, we appreciate a wink back to the hooded legion of merchants dotted around RE4's world. It was a legion, right? There was more than one of them. Herb Ice Cream. The Resident Evil 2 remake saw the first RE engine return to Raccoon City, with Leon and Claire finding themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. A stunning reworking of the beloved 1998 classic game. Reception aside, the game's writers went out of their way to not only acknowledge and honour the original in many ways through dialogue, design and visual Easter eggs, there are some more subtle things hidden away which we feel are the writers joining in on the fun we fans often poke at the series. Aside from the magical and beloved First Aid Spray, which of course can heal characters from attacks suffered at the hands of zombies, lickers and all kinds of human hunting BOWs, the other healing items of the franchise which has mostly remained a staple is the even more magical red, green and blue herbs. No, they don't just serve as a nod to a colour model, and no, we don't recommend using them as seasoning in your next meal. That being said, the writers of RE2 Remake took an opportunity to have some fun with these botanical beauties, slipping in a joke right at the very beginning of the game. In the fuel station, if you look closely, you'll notice a freezer emblazoned with some inviting looking branding for herb flavoured ice cream. Just the thing to take the edge off as the city burns around you. Many itchy, much tasty. I think I prefer a cornetto. Boulder punching asshole. To top off the list, we have another moment from 2021's Village and a line of dialogue which makes absolutely zero sense or has logic in terms of story or character knowledge at all. Because as far as we know, Heisenberg doesn't just hang around volcanoes in his spare time. Yes, it is of course the writers making fun of the ridiculous moment from RE5 where Popeye Redfield resorted to the use of his two favourite weapons, his biceps. In RE5's finale, Chris and Sheva take down series' big bad Albert Wesker in the serene setting of an active volcano. As the battle ensues, Chris finds his path blocked by some pesky boulders, and being the committed bloke he is who never skips arm day, large lumps of sediment cannot stand in his way, and Chris punches the shit out of them boulders, allowing him to take down Wesker once and for all. Probably. Back in Village, this absolutely ludicrous moment is called out by Heisentron when Chris sets off explosives taking down his factory. Maybe rumours of Chris's boulder breaking skills spread through the lands after RE5. Such amazing feats of strength cannot go unnoticed. These whispers on the wind eventually made their way to the deep countryside of Eastern Europe. Of course not. It was the writers having fun, even at the expense of logic. And as eye-rolling as it is, we definitely had a giggle. And that's it! 5 times Resident Evil winked at the fans. We love the horror, but you can't argue that some of the silliness dotted around the series gives charm which underneath many of us do have a soft spot for. These aren't the only times though. Do you have any favourite winks to the fans? Let us know in the comments. I've been KDB, and I'm off for a revitalising herb flavoured ice cream.
Ah!